Okay, but really, have you ever gone down a TikTok rabbit hole? I swear I could lose hours. Like, I'll start with a dance video, and the
Mm.
next thing I know, I'm watching someone make clothes for their pet lizard.
It's amazing how that happens. It's like the algorithm just knows.
Knows exactly what's going to keep you hooked.
Right. But there's a new kind of TikTok trend we're talking about today, and this one's a lot less
Yeah,
fun.
this one's serious. We're talking about the potential nationwide TikTok ban right here in the U.S.
This is a big deal. It's a legal battle, it's political, it's about technology, it's about free speech, it's about a lot more than just dance challenges.
So if you want to really understand what's going on with this whole TikTok ban, we're going to dive deep into it today.
We're looking at excerpts from a recent Washington Post article all about a court hearing that just happened, a really important one.
And that's where we're going to kick things off today.
Sounds good.
So basically, you've got the U.S. government saying, TikTok, national security risk.
Right, and it all comes down to who owns TikTok, a Chinese company called ByteDance.
And the government's worried that our data could end up in the wrong hands.
It's not just about silly videos, it's about facial recognition data, location tracking, even the content we like and share. It's a lot of information that, in the wrong hands, could be a problem.
Okay, so I get the data privacy angle. But did you see where the Justice Department actually compared this to wartime scenarios?
I know, right? They brought up how, in the past, Congress has limited what they call foreign propaganda during wars.
So they're saying they could do the same thing here with TikTok.
That's what they're suggesting.
Wow. So we've got the government waving that national security flag. But TikTok isn't just rolling over, are they?
Nope. They're pushing back hard. They're saying this ban would be a huge blow to free speech because it would silence millions of users and creators, many of whom are just everyday Americans sharing their thoughts and experiences.
So it's American creators reaching American audiences. That doesn't
Yeah.
sound like a national security threat.
That's TikTok's argument.
Yeah.
And they're not alone. Some creators have even joined the lawsuit against the ban.
Interesting. And what about the judges? What are they saying about all of this?
Well, they don't seem totally convinced by either side, to be honest.
What do you mean?
It sounds like they were really grilling TikTok's lawyers about whether ByteDance, the parent company, is truly independent from the Chinese government.
So there's skepticism there.
Definitely. They even suggested that during wartime, Congress might have the power to block what they call the enemy's ownership of a major media source.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay. That's kind of scary when you think about it.
It is. It raises big questions about how much control the government can have over media, even social media.
For sure. So what happens next? Do they just decide ban or no ban?
It's not quite that simple. The judges actually threw everyone a bit of a curveball.
Oh. How so?
They asked if maybe, just maybe, a disclaimer could work instead of a total ban.
A disclaimer. What would that even say?
That's a good question. Like, hey, use TikTok, but be aware that the Chinese government might be watching, kind of thing.
That's wild. They'd slap a warning label on it like it's a pack of cigarettes.
It sounds crazy, but that's what they're considering. Like, maybe that would be enough to address the security concerns without completely shutting down free speech.
It feels like they're trying to thread a very fine needle here, trying to find a middle ground, some kind of compromise.
Exactly. It's complicated, and we're not even out of the woods yet. Remember, this is just the legal battle.
Yeah, this whole thing goes way beyond the courtroom, doesn't it?
Way beyond public opinion is shifting. The political side of this is a whole other story. It's fascinating.
All right, well, let's take a quick break. Then we'll jump into all of that. So we just left off talking about the courtroom drama, but out here in the real world, things are changing. Public opinion on a TikTok ban, it's not looking so solid anymore.
Yeah, the support for a ban, it's definitely fading. There was this Pew Research Center survey, right? And they found that only around 32% of U.S. adults are still into it.
32. That's way lower than before, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, it was at 50% back in March. That's a huge drop in just a few months.
Wow. That's got to have the government's attention. What do you think's going on there? Are young people just like, whatever, the government doesn't get to tell me what to do online?
I think it's more than that. It's generational, right? Younger people, they've grown up with TikTok. It's part of their lives, how they connect with friends, even how they make money.
Yeah, for a lot of them, it's their job.
Exactly. A ban would hit them where it hurts.
Yeah.
So there's that aspect. But then there's the other thing.
The elephant in the room. Lay it on me.
Both Biden and Trump, their campaigns are all over TikTok.
I know, right? It's almost funny. Like, the government's saying, this app is dangerous, top secret, don't use it. But then everyone running for office is using it to try and get elected.
It's pretty ironic. And it's
Yeah.
not like they're just dabbling. They're going all in. Trump, for example, what did he have? Like millions of followers on TikTok. The same guy who wanted it banned a few years ago.
Right. He was all for banning it back in 2020.
Exactly. And now he's even saying he could be the one to save TikTok. It makes you wonder about the whole national security argument, doesn't it?
For sure. Like, is it really about security? Or is it just about who has the power to control this massive platform, especially during an election?
It's a good question. And don't forget Kamala Harris. She's on TikTok, too.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And she's actually talked about the good things about it, even though the Biden administration is the one trying to push this ban through.
Talk about sending mixed messages. So, on the one hand, you've got this potential ban looming. And on the other hand, you've got everyone from TikTok stars to politicians to regular people using it every day.
It's a mess. And we haven't even gotten to the economic side of things yet.
Right, because banning TikTok wouldn't just hurt the app itself, would it?
Not even close. We're talking about a major hit to the whole U.S. economy.
Okay, so walk me through that. How big of an impact are we talking about here?
Well, one study estimated that TikTok content creation brings in something like $24 billion to the U.S. GDP. That's massive.
24 billion. That's not
No.
chump change.
Not at all. And that's not just TikTok making money, it's the whole ecosystem. You've got creators getting those ad deals, businesses using TikTok for marketing, even musicians benefiting from songs going viral. Banning it would disrupt all of that.
Yeah, and behind those numbers, those are real jobs, real
Exactly.
people's livelihood.
Exactly. The article we were looking at that mentioned this guy, Paul Tran. He and his wife, they run a skincare company. And he said losing TikTok would be devastating for them. They haven't been able to find the same kind of community on other platforms.
It's easy to forget that there are real people behind all of this, you know? It's more than just an app. It's people's careers, their passions, their way of life.
100%.
It's wild to think about all of the economic impacts, too. And speaking of big impacts, we can't forget about TikTok's secret weapon, the algorithm.
Oh, yeah. That's a whole other can of worms, isn't it? Especially because China's been throwing around threats, saying they'd block any attempt to sell the algorithm if TikTok is forced to sell.
Wait, really? That's interesting because that algorithm, it's what makes TikTok what it is, right?
Right.
I mean, it's why we get served up those hyper-specific videos. It's how we discover new creators, right?
Yeah.
It's like the puppet master behind the scenes.
I know. It's so true. And some people are even saying that even if TikTok did get sold, which is a whole other issue, without its algorithm, it wouldn't even matter.
You'd be like buying a Ferrari with no engine, right? Like, it looks cool, but can it actually do anything?
Exactly. It's all connected. And this whole battle over TikTok and its algorithm, it makes you think about the bigger picture, you know?
Totally. Like, how much power DO governments have over these tech giants? It feels like a huge power struggle is going on.
It is. And the stakes are high. We're talking about free speech, online privacy, even national security.
This is way more complex than I think people realize.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's try and sum this all up for everyone listening. We've got this legal battle going on about whether the U.S. government can actually force the sale of TikTok because of those national security concerns, which all stem from TikTok's Chinese ownership.
And those concerns, they basically boil down to whether the Chinese government could get its hands on our data through TikTok.
Right, and then you've got the judges in this case trying to figure out if a ban would even be constitutional. They're asking about free speech, the limits of government power, even if something like a disclaimer could be a solution. A disclaimer.
It's wild, right? Imagine opening up TikTok and there's just a big warning label like, hey, be careful, the Chinese government might be watching. Would that even work?
It just seems like a Band-Aid solution, you know? But meanwhile, outside the courtroom, public opinion is shifting. We talked about how support for a ban is dropping, especially among younger people.
It makes sense. They've grown up with TikTok. It's a part of their lives. It's not just some app to them. It's how they connect, how they express themselves, even how they make a living.
And then there's the political side of all of this, which just gets more and more complicated with politicians using the app while simultaneously threatening to shut it down.
I mean, come on. It's classic political maneuvering, right? It makes you question the sincerity of the security concerns versus the potential political motivations.
Absolutely. And through it all, we can't forget about the potential consequences for the millions of creators and businesses that rely on TikTok. We're talking about real people's livelihoods.
For sure. And we have to ask ourselves, where does all of this leave us? In a world where a few tech companies have so much power, what does it mean for our freedom, our privacy, even our democracy?
It's a question we all need to be thinking about. And that's what we're trying to do here today, to really dive deep into these complex issues, go beyond the headlines, and give you the information you need to form your own opinions.
Because at the end of the day, the future of the internet, of how we communicate, how we live our lives online, it's not just up to the governments and tech companies, it's up to all of us.
So, that being said, what are your thoughts on all of this? Is a
Ah.
ban the answer? Is there a compromise that works for everyone?
We want to hear from you. Head over to social media and share your thoughts using the hashtag #DeepDiveTikTok. Let's keep this conversation going.
This has been a wild ride. We'll be back next time with another deep dive into the biggest stories shaping our world. Until then, stay curious.